Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to video number 2. This is going to go over transition officers that are out there. We think it's very important that you know what veterans normally face because we're a very unique, kind of one-of-a-kind program. There's not a whole lot of stuff out in the market that's like ours. I actually don't know any programs that are out there like ours. So it's important for you to be able to kind of compare what you would normally see and how we looked at those things and made ourselves different. So by explaining kind of what's out there in the market, you can kind of understand a little bit of why we structured our program the way we did. So the first thing we'll go over here is a little conversation about, let me set the color of my pen here, what you normally do. So here's the story. Years ago, you showed up at a recruiter's office. You joined in, they shaved your head and went to boot camp. You came out and they said, hey, you know what? We want you to be a truck driver. You said, but I don't want to be a truck driver. And they said, well, we really don't care what you want. U.S. Army needs a truck driver. You're going to be a truck driver. You don't have a choice in it. So you go do that for the next 4 or 10 years, whatever it is. The thing about the military, something you got to understand, a truck driver is going to make a certain amount of money. A cook is going to make the same amount of money. The IT guy is going to make the same money. All skills get paid the same value. When you come out here in the market, this may be worth this, this may be worth this, this may be worth this. Because out in the corporate market, it's the supply and demand. If they need people at this level, there's not a lot of people, you're going to make more than that. So it's not an equal thing. So that's a big shock to some people you coming out because maybe in the military you've gotten up to rank when you're making $60,000 a year. You come out here now and you're making $25,000 a year doing the same skill you did in the military. Somebody else may come out and they may make $90,000 a year. So it all depends on what you did in the military. So that's the first shell shock that you have to go through as a veteran is, what is your experience actually worth doing the exact same job? Some of you may be like me, you're coming out and you actually don't even have a transferable skill because of what you did in the military. There's not a civilian market for it. So you have to come out and look at that as well. Usually two things that happen. A very large portion of veterans continue on with this because they figure, what the heck, I've got 10 years experience doing this thing, why not try to do that out in the civilian world? That should be the easiest way for me to get a job. Depending on what the money is, that may work out, that may not. Other ones come out because they have, sorry, my pen is misbehaving. They have a secret clearance. So you get a lot of defense contractors out here to say, hey, we'll give you $30,000. If you got an active clearance, we'll give you that because, hey, we need people with active clearances. Outside of that, we really don't care. As long as you can do a basic job, we're going to pay you that much because we're making about $300,000 off of you. So you got the defense contractor positions. Others come out and they think that the university model is there. Now, usually I find veterans go in the university model for two things. One, they always wanted to get their degree. They've thought about this a lot. They want to use their GI Bill, and they got a very good idea of what they want to be when they grow up, and they go out and do that. Other ones I find once they get out, you've been out for 6 months. You were making $60,000 here before you got out. 6 months later, no job. Things are starting to get a little hairy scary. Car payments due. Kids want to go enroll in football or baseball. Your wife wants to buy some clothes, whatever it may be. Stuff that you normally been doing on a regular basis, your lifestyle, is now at risk. You go another 6 months. Now things get really hairy scary. You're not just worried about your lifestyle. You're worried about whether or not you can even, are you going to go bankrupt? You're behind on your credit card payments, your car payment, all this stuff. So I see a lot of these people go here because if I go and enroll into college, then I get BHA. And I may be able to live off of BHA for a little while. And I actually use that as my income. Have no desire to finish the degree, hoping they can just make enough off of BHA to buy them some more time, and then they can get a regular job, and then they'll probably put college. One of the reasons why less than about 11% of people that qualify for GI Bill ever use their GI Bill, and out of the people in that 11%, less than 2 of them actually ever finish their degree. So less than 2% of the people that go after college actually finish it. Because you probably, if you wanted to go into college, you would have probably went in college back here. You didn't. You joined the military. So now you're 30 years old. You probably even more don't want to go into college. But you might be willing to go take a few classes once or twice a week if you can make, 2 or 3 grand in BHA, and that actually can, make your house payment or your car payment or your credit card payments and buy you some time. If you go do this, even for those that show up and they want to get a career transition, because suddenly somewhere around this point, a lot of veterans start second guessing themselves. They started getting down on their service. They start saying, man, I wish I hadn't went in the military. I wish I'd went to college instead. They get the Igor disease, off Winnie the Pooh. It's, oh me, oh me. And a lot of that has more to do with you're just unprepared on how to work the job market out there. I mean, you walked in a recruiter's office and you walked out with a job. Prior to that, you were putting in applications at McDonald's in high school. You get out here in the corporate market and there's job boards, there's interview, and there's resumes. Everything's electronic. It's a very complicated system, and if you don't understand that system, you have no chance in the world. A lot of the veterans we see coming in the program, they've got a really bad resume that they did out of the transition office. Not saying that the transition offices are bad. They're very good. Most of those people are very helpful. We meet a lot of them, and they really want to help. But they have a charter of writing, a generic resume for every single veteran coming out, 250,000 veterans a year, going into every possible occupation. So they write a one-size-fits-all, which means it doesn't fit anybody. It's very difficult for them to kind of coach each and every person on how to do it. They try to do their best, but it doesn't necessarily help you. So you start to second guess it. Some people go to the point where this really impacts their lives. They start to really lose a lot of self-esteem. They lose that pride. They just get really down and out. So you walk into college and, suddenly things are different. You got some counselor or a missions person, which is just a fancy way in the university world or the IT training world or whatever like that of saying a salesperson. They start asking you questions you haven't heard before, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? And you go, wow, nobody's asked me that before. I've always been interested in doing interpretive dancing. I think I'd be a good dancer. And they said, well, you know what? That's great. We got a degree for that. It's actually approved for the GI Bill. Just sign here. We'll take you $40,000, and 3 years from now, you'll have a degree in interpretive dancing. And what they don't tell you is whether or not that degree is going to get you a salary. So you get done with that. You've now wasted 3 years of your life. You got a degree, and you get out, and the degree is worthless. Now, I'm being ridiculous with the interpretive dancing thing. This could apply to being an attorney. If you don't do the research in the market where you're going and you get out and you're an attorney, you got a really good degree from a really good school, but there's 100,000 attorneys out there, you're making $30,000 like everybody else because you got a skill that's not in demand. So the way I look at this and the way I've looked at it in my career is there's 2 ways to spend money. If somebody asked me and said, you got $100,000, you can spend it on anything you want, but it has to be on something to do with training. If you don't do it on training, you don't get to spend the money. Then I would probably go out and enroll in a motorcycle mechanic course. Not because I have any desire whatsoever to be a motorcycle mechanic, nor do I plan on making a career out of that. I simply like to drive my motorcycles. I'd like to know how to work on them. I enjoy doing that stuff. It's a nice break. So I'd be investing that $100,000 of somebody else's money into a hobby because it would have no return on investment for me. Now, having said that, if you ask me to spend $10 of my own personal money on a skill that has something to do with my career, I will refuse to spend that $10 if I don't think I can make $1,000 out of it. Because I don't enjoy doing IT. It's the skill that I use to make a living so that I can enjoy riding my motorcycle. So I'm not going to invest in anything in my career that's not going to turn around and produce some sort of return on that investment. So there I'm going to scrutinize and I'm going to say, well, why would I go spend money on that skill or that class or that certification or that training? If that's not going to give me something that's going to make me worth more in my salary or give me a better chance of getting another job or moving up in my career, then I should go invest my money somewhere else. That's how you need to view this stage of your life right now. Okay? Going to school, getting a degree, let's say you even pick a degree that's good. You still got a problem. Most people get a degree when they're 18 years old. You're 30, 40 years old. When you go walk into an employer and they say, Okay, well, you're in the military. What have you been doing for the last 3 or 4 years? Oh, well, I just took 4 years off to go to school. They're honestly going to think something is weird about you because they don't understand that system, because it doesn't make sense to them. There's no way that they will pause their life at that age, take away from their kids and their family and provide for them just to go to get a degree. Maybe they go to night school while they're working, but they're not going to sacrifice their family to go get a degree just because they want a degree. So in some ways, it actually has a negative connotation for you, even if you got a decent degree. Now, the problem with this is that you're spending 3 years with the hope that that degree is going to go out and get you a job making $50,000 or $60,000. So basically, you're unemployed working at McDonald's part-time, living off your BHA, with the goal of making $60,000. Just to give you a little comparison, in our program, you're making $50,000 a year, something like that, whatever the salary is that you start off in the job. You're making that every year while you're going through the program over 3 years. So at the end of the 3 years, you've made $150,000, working towards a set of skills that may be able to earn you $100,000 a year. So earn while you learn type idea. That's the way we structured our program. Not that we think that knowledge is bad, but we think experience is better. Experience is what people are going to pay for. Because at the end of your 3 years of education, you're still an entry-level person. At the 3 years end of our program, you got 3 years of experience, plus you're military now. Okay, so it's a completely different model. Now, somewhere in between, there's a lot of companies that do internships and apprenticeships. Usually, these are structured around the benefit of the company. Very common for a Fortune 100 or larger company to go out and get 200-300 college students. There's a lot of them have veteran programs now too. They'll take 100 veterans. The idea out of either one of those programs, they put a lot of people in the front. Only 30-40 people actually get jobs at the end of it. Over the year or 2 years that you're going through that program, you do a lot of work at the company. You're making a low salary. They're getting a lot of cheap labor out of you while you're doing that, because you're getting the benefit of working for a large company. And then they basically let the cream rise to the top. They make it very competitive. Only the top people, get the positions. So if you're not one of those top people, then hey, at least you have the ability to write on your resume that you work for a major large corporation. But that model is designed to help them more than it helps you. They're basically throwing 100 smart people in a room, make you fight for 3 years, and the top 10 come out of it, and those are great employees for them. Meanwhile, the other 90, they got a lot of good labor out of them because you were working really hard trying to become one of the best, so you did a lot of really good work over that time. So we like the model of, you get to earn more as you gain more skills. So we looked at the apprenticeship models that a lot of companies have. We looked at the apprenticeship models that the Department of Labor has and the VA has, their OJT programs, and we took things out of that we liked. Now, we've had conversations with them about whether or not we take our program and bring it into a formal Department of Labor and VA apprenticeship. But for the most part, unless it's proven to me that actually is going to help you guys, then I'm not necessarily going to go do it. I don't want to jump into a program where my motivation is getting your GI Bill. Because the way I look at it is, if I can give you a set of skills, now, and that set of skills starts earning you a good salary in just, 3 years, you get out after you end up the program, your next, 3 years, you're gonna take and perfect these skills. Somewhere around here, you're gonna be ready to start looking at management. This is where that degree will come in. I apologize about my pencil. It's not cooperating with me. So that's supposed to be degree. At that point, maybe you want to come in and take a business degree. Maybe it's not even IT. You want to do business management or something like that, so that'll help you get in that director or VP or executive role and kind of continue your career on. It's a forever GI Bill, so you can use it whenever. So I wanted to design a program that did not need to use the GI Bill. Even if you have it, I could tell you, why don't you wait? Don't need to use it. If you don't have it, then you don't have to worry about it. You can still do the program just like everybody else. We did this in a way where the employers are going to carry a lot of the cost, the majority of the cost on it. The only money that's going to come out of your pocket is so small in comparison to everything else. It's just a very minor thing to do up in the beginning, because we got to work with you for a couple months just to get you prepared to go out there and actually get through the interviews and get your resumes out there and do all that. So we had to spend a lot of time with you. So we had to charge something on it so that we can actually survive as well. But once you get in the full program, the one that takes 36 months, we've structured it in a way where the employer pays for it. So it's now part of your salary and everything else, and that's negotiated up front. And employers are very encouraged to do that because it's a great investment for them. And I'll talk about that in some of the later videos. So we looked at all of this when we did the programs. We looked at the pros and cons of each model. We took what works out of each one of them, and we took the stuff that didn't work and we didn't use it. Now, in the IT market specifically, what I just talked about was fairly generic, but in the IT market specifically, there are university programs out there. There are IT training companies out there that do quote-unquote IT certification training for veterans. Be very, very alarmed when you see a training company or university that takes GI Bill, because you have to assume they're out to get your GI Bill. They're probably more focused on that than they are anything else. In the regular corporate model, running training companies like I have for years, if I taught you the CCNA route and switch that's on the screen there, I would teach you that full class in 2 weeks, about $6,000 or $7,000, and that will be it. A university will take that same program, run it for 2 years, because they're billing you per semester for tuition. So that same program that costs $6,000 or $7,000 is going to cost 4 or 6 months of semesters of tuition. They're going to turn around and get $12,000 or $15,000 out of you. A lot of the IT programs that are out there, they're going to throw in A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, all these different things. And some of them do it in 2 months. You literally take these classes back to back to back to back. No way in the world you're comprehending any of that. Most of the vets that come out of that, they never pass the certifications, and they're structured like that. But those schools charge every week as a full semester of tuition. So in 2 months, you literally can spend 2.5 years of your GI Bill. So now you've invested $40,000 in a bunch of skills that, honest to God, outside of the Microsoft stuff that's there at the bottom, I'm going to include all those more or less almost for free. We want you to do the CCNA route and switch, not because I think it makes you better in the market. It's a prerequisite. For all the courses that we put in the program, you got to have that done first. It's kind of the first step, so we get you to knock that out before you even really get in the program. A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, we let you go through that basically if you want it. We do not include it in the program. We see no value in it, but if you're trying to slip in a defense contractor position and they need Security Plus, then we got it out there. You can knock it out and be able to get in the job. A+ and Network Plus, if you're doing a major career transition, you've never done IT, then we put it out there just so you can go through it if you want, maybe pick up some language, maybe understand what a hard drive is, some different things like this, so it just makes more sense to you. But probably don't ever go back and get the certification on it. You're just picking it up for knowledge. So we make that stuff more or less just include it even before you even get in the full program. So if all you did was our pre-IT program, which is really designed about helping you get into a job, versus the full IT program is designed to take you over the next 3 years and make you into a senior network engineer. That pre-IT program, for the amount of money that we charge for that, which I'll talk about in later videos and explain to you, but the $500 fee that we do for that 4 months, almost 100 hours, and those 3 or 4 classes, that same program in some of these other companies out there will cost you $40,000, $20,000, $30,000, depending on how they package it. So we kind of throw them in there for free because they're not worth anything in the market. But if you want to knock some of them out, if some of the knowledge will help you, you get the prerequisite, you do something like that, we want you to go ahead and knock that out. Once you get into the courses that are in the regular program, they're designed to sell you. Now all of these, they also try to tell you, well, you can't start IT without starting at the bottom. You got to start at help desk. That's not true. This is the same pitch, guys, that I got from these companies in 1999. It's the same exact pitch, the same exact courses. And that was true in the 90s. When I came out, I think I got the first computer in my house in like 98. So yes, putting together a PC was a big deal. Companies were still putting together PCs. Today, the laptop market has replaced the PC market, and I could tell you 3 years ago, the leading companies in the laptop market said then that they know the laptop market is dead. Just like the laptop replaced the PC, the tablets, the iPads are replacing the laptops. So these companies are selling laptops, but you'll notice that laptops are very, very cheap to buy right now because they're just trying to squeeze out a little bit more profit until the whole market just completely dies. Now you go buy an iPad, it's got a keyboard on it. You go buy a Microsoft Surface tablet, it's got a keyboard on it. Most of the laptops that Apple sells are the Apple Air, which is basically like a glorified iPad anyway. So companies aren't going to pay you to take apart the PC and understand what a mouse and a keyboard and a hard drive is. My 10-year-old knows what those things are. If you want to live in India and build laptops and things like that, then that's a great skill. You'll make a lot of money. But in the U.S., most companies are moving to what we call a BYOD model, which is you go buy your own device and bring it to work. If it breaks, go back to the Apple store. They don't have to maintain these large help desk positions, and frankly, if your laptop breaks, nobody's going to take it apart anyway. They're just going to ship it back to Dell and ask for a new one. They got corporate purchasing agreements now, so nobody builds them. So, as a skill itself, it's starting to go away. Now, my wife looked at this when we were putting together a presentation, and she actually has kind of like a help desk job in a local school, in an elementary school. And she said, "Well, I'm in help desk. Why is that a bad thing?" I was like, "Well, actually, you're proving my point. You make $16,000 a year working in a school because she doesn't do it for the money. She does it so she's in the school with our 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and she could be around with him and be involved. And outside of that, what she gets deposited as a salary is embarrassing, but at least we got good insurance out of it. But my point to her was, yeah, you make $16,000 doing it, and you have no certifications. You had no background in IT. You didn't know anything about IT, and you got the job. So why would I go out and invest $40,000 to go do a job I could probably go do anyway?" So that's kind of my point to you: is watch it. I think it's almost criminal. I think it's a shame that the VA even allows it to happen. And I've said so to congressmen, to the president's office, to secretaries of labor and VA. I've been very boisterous. I've even had a testimony on the House Committee on Veteran Affairs on apprenticeships because I think this is just so wrong. So I'll continue to fight that in the background, but unless the government turns around and shows me something where they can really help the veterans out by participating in some sort of program they have, then I'm going to design my program to work without them, because the way I look at it is if we do it and it doesn't help you guys, then we stop doing it. All right, so that gives you a little idea from that point of view. All right, so that end kind of a little bit about what your transitions options are. Now you can just move on into the next video. We're going to talk about the market a little bit and just keep moving yourself on through the videos.